love the game too much, and I feel like the next dreamer deserves a better path. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
the same. They're gonna face new challenges, but they should not be facing the same challenges,
Yeah.
which requires someone to come in and do something, and that was really why I came into being an entrepreneur. I was, quite frankly, really upset that it was happening over and over, and
Mhm.
that the people that were our main working for us agents were had no sign of doing anything to change it. And that's when I
Mhm.
realized it wasn't something that they needed to change because the model worked for them.
Welcome to Authentic Conversations, the podcast where we dive deep into real stories, the real people, and the real experiences that shape our lives and our communities. Let's welcome today Jori and Julie. Welcome, ladies.
How you doing? Thanks for
Good.
having us.
Of course. How you doing, Julie?
Good. Thanks for having
All
us.
right. Excellent. So, ladies, what I'm excited about really is to talk as much about you two as individuals, but I'm really kind of excited to talk about the business that you guys are forged. So, tell me a little bit about the business, WeVolv, and sort of how it came to be. Jory, why don't you start? Because I think it was your beginnings that sort of brought this to bear. So tell me the story behind the business.
Yeah. Just a little bit about myself. My first international experience was in high school. So navigating, finding the right resources, people across borders started early for me. In the UK. And then fast forward, starting my overseas career, I really didn't have a lot of information to go off of when it comes to either past history of which agent I was going to work with. Going my first year into Israel, not really knowing how I would really be paid, no real support for working across borders as an international athlete, yet alone working but living there
Yeah.
for 8 months. Despite having an agent that had over 15 years plus experience, sending players abroad, there was nothing really set. And to this day, the industry kind of continued. For me, fast forward, it was year 7 for me, and everything that I was facing for is lack of pay transparency, lack of real ownership over my career, no real way to build my network so I could better advocate for myself in my career, and realizing that the unions that were in place weren't really built for the American athletes to start, but not even some of the locals. They were more so built around their national teams. And that there was a huge gap in just using data and information for our own benefit.
Huh.
And I was, leading the league in scoring in Italy, but realized as I started to ask questions, I was making much less than my peers. And I had
Yeah.
been doing that probably for a couple of years now compared to some of my peers where they were money wise. And that just led me to really want more transparency and something
Yeah.
that can help me. And that's really where it all started.
Fantastic. Julie, how did you come into this business, and do you have anything to add to that sort of beginning?
Yeah. Yeah. In the beginning phases, I was doing a lot of work around community, trying to get athletes together, sort of better understand the leverage we have
Yeah.
as a collective. And so one of those pieces was various athlete retreats in different locations across Europe. And I had attended the one that she put on in Tel Aviv. And so it was me and a couple other athletes, and just ended up sort of in the desert hanging out with free time, and she told me more about, her vision for the community and what we could really build if we sort of organized ourselves, and that's where it started. Just kept asking questions, sort of engaging, and then, we had played against each other for a number of years in Italy.
I wondered
So
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, we knew each other a little bit, but then it was just curious, to know more. And, I never pictured myself as an entrepreneur, but it's just, when you keep sort of chasing that curiosity, she unleashed at one point all her spreadsheets, vision boards, and all of that stuff. So, I was like, dang, this girl really went deep and thought through a lot of this stuff. And, so then I just sort of joined on the project, and we've been working together since.
That's great. Jory, how many years has it been that you've been pushing this rock up this hill as an entrepreneur?
2018, I
Okay.
actually just thought of the name and stuff. So, of course, I incorporated as soon as I started, but I didn't have a plan. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like it's been a long time, but the full vision and tech and the contract tool where we are now, it didn't come into really like 2022. 2018 was where I really
yeah,
was like, I'm gonna start a business and figure out how to solve this problem.
right.
And
And
so that was where it started for us. Let's start with community first. No tech,
yeah.
just how do we come closer together to share our experiences.
Yeah, just for the audience who's probably not familiar both with your backgrounds, both of you played collegiate ball, raised to the women's basketball. I'm a big b-ball player myself, so I'm going to use some shorthand here. But then you both took your careers, your professional careers abroad, and you both have played abroad. Are you both currently still playing?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm in the south of France this year. So
Okay.
I graduated college back in 2012. Got drafted but didn't make a roster full time in the W, so I went to play internationally. The thought was just a year or two for the experience, but I ended up falling in love with the lifestyle over here. So I've played in Belgium, Italy, Spain, and France over the last 14 years, and currently still playing now.
And Jory, you?
Yeah, and I'm currently in the UK. So I'm in Manchester, city of Manchester, playing for the women's league here. But yeah, this is my 15th season, and I've been playing across 10 countries. Spent the longest in Italy, where I met Julie. Spent
Yeah.
time in Spain, etc.
Wow. And, so let's go back to the product of the company for a second. My belief system is that players are the business of sports and, the leagues and the teams benefit from the players, so giving the players ownership makes perfect sense to me. But tell me a little bit about there's community building, so you get everybody together to make them aware of what their value is and ultimately what they have access to. Um, but then you've also really forged a path into some technology products. So talk a little bit, Jory, about the tech products that you actually offer as part of the platform.
Yeah, I mean, really what we're building is athlete intelligence infrastructure. We feel the infrastructure is the issue. It's not one-off, contract tool or one-off SaaS. It's the infrastructure element and how all the data that our management team of providers gathers and all the data that our community gathers, how do we
Mhm.
create one central knowledge base with, of course, protections and layers in place that the player can use for their own personalized use. And so we started with the contract because that's one of the biggest pain points and one of the areas where in sport we don't have the 48 hours that most would at least try to have. It's usually like less than 24 hours sometimes. A contract is
Yeah,
put in front of you and it's like you take it or leave it.
yeah.
Deals happen fast. And so the contract tool was our first area of data layer where players can get their contract checked, but as more players upload, we anonymize that data. We learn from what really happened, and we're able to
Mhm,
keep our system learning from every player and every provider that's aligned with us that also uses the tool for their clientele. And that
mhm,
creates a very unique knowledge base of information that helps the whole collective, no matter what deal you're doing around the world, stay engaged and informed. And on top of that, of course, we gather all the key rules, regulations, CBAs that
mhm,
also integrate into that system. And so it's infrastructure is bringing all the things that used to happen in silos, we bring it collectively together and we strategically align ourselves with the providers that believe in transparency and believe that this is something that can help athletes start to learn to manage themselves, which leads into the athlete transition. And so, really, what it is a management tool for athletes. And we also have some client management software that's aligned with the app where the players invite their providers and the providers also benefit from the data of other providers and their
mm,
clients. But also, we
smart.
create software that helps them keep their clientele engaged and on the same page. And so, it's really that operating system for the athlete team. Most
Mhm,
people are building for teams, building for agents, but that's only one part of the athlete. Though
yeah,
really the team and the clubs and the brands are not my teammates in my
yeah,
career. They are who I'm doing business with and who I'm maybe working for, but they're on the other side of that negotiation table. They
yeah,
don't have my best interest in mind fully. Not that they want to
yeah.
do ill will, but they're trying to negotiate their best side of the deal. And so why would we use the same models and stuff that's built for them when it is built for them, not for
Sure.
me? And
Yeah.
so we are just trying to build that infrastructure that's really for the player and those that are on their team.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the gap I see wasn't being really filled. I saw a lot of sports betting companies, everyone using wearable technology, possibly selling things to insurance companies, etc. That's the business model, but it wasn't really to help the athlete. It was a
Yeah.
marketing scheme to get us to buy in, because that's what's going to make the business model work for them.
That's a lot. That makes a lot of sense. Let's go back to your boards, your vision boards, Jory, and some of the things that you thought were just core to this. If you were to name on your fingers 3 or 4 values or belief systems that were sort of at the core of why you took this on, what would they be?
For sure, it was athlete empowerment was one of the key ones. Ownership was another pillar. And then it was definitely more so around, collective power, collective intelligence. It was how do we take everything we've learned and create an archived digital footprint for the next
Mhm.
generation to learn from. I think we speak a lot and we go
Yeah.
talk to schools or we have podcasts, but that's not something we can take action on. Or we can't go back to that when that contract does hit or when that one agent does come to me randomly or when something happens. It's like, how do we take Dina's experience and
Mhm.
digitize it when Dina's not available and there's that kid that's about to do something that you already went through. It's
Yeah.
not on the ledger, and that's what we felt was the next phase of empowerment and giving back.
Awesome. Julie, is there anything you would add that you'd say is sort of just a core belief or value for you that, kind of keeps you going on working on this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that we've talked to sort of envision the journey being that of the top 1 to 5% of athletes, and that's just not the reality for the majority. And so a lot of what we see is people wanting to service that top percent when there's so many other athletes, and that's why we sort of chose to try to utilize technology to get more reach, and to create something more widespread. Back to our concept of the collective. But I think the core of everything we do is just around transparency.
Mhm.
Up until this point, a lot of athletes have just blindly trusted the people
Yeah.
around them and aren't really realizing the conflicts of interest that exist at every
Right.
corner and every decision
Sure.
process. So it's not so much, um, trying to replace the agent or trying to replace people. It's more how can we create more transparency around the business process, the
Mhm.
information being shared, and how decisions are actually being made. And what we see a lot is it's really reactive around the contract. So our goal is to be proactive. No one has an incentive to educate the athlete on a lot of these things because
Yeah.
that it just doesn't make sense back to Jory's point of who we're sitting at the table with. The
Yeah.
the athlete, has nobody in their corner, that's really taking the time for their unique journey. And I think now the best decision for Jory maybe is not the best decision for me because there's too
Yeah.
many other factors about maybe the lifestyle that we want or need or the type of culture that we best fit in or so many other factors of the playing experience and the off-court lifestyle. And so there's all these micro pieces and layers that we're trying to find a way to organize. It sounds
Mhm.
overwhelming, but there's a way now with technology that you can organize and sort of start to create, a decision matrix around this to say, okay, let's get use this information to help you make a decision, and in the end, you can still do what's in your heart and
Yeah.
what you want, but at least let's put some information behind that.
That's great. That's helpful. Um, let's make this personal, guys, because this is, ladies, this is really sort of where the rubber meets the road. You two are professional athletes playing game. You've been doing it for a while, so you're probably pretty efficient at, staying fit, staying in shape, staying game ready. And now you're running a business. So talk to me a little bit about what drives you personally. You're playing elite sports globally. and launching a business? Like, let me start with you, Julie, so I'll give Jory a second. But like, when you were a kid, did you imagine playing pro sports and did you imagine launching a company or partnering with Jory on a business? Talk to me a little bit about your growing up and how you got here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm from a super small town, 600 people in the country. I was just a kid running around, like, barefoot, playing with the neighborhood kids. So I never had a plan, I guess, of what I live my life as now. But I think I was always just sort of curious. I've always wanted to just help people in certain way. Like I felt like I was pretty fortunate. So it was just, if people were happy around me, I was happy. So one of the, that's something I've carried with. I've gotten lucky from a basketball perspective that I mean I've put work in, I feel like, but I've also been very fortunate to be around good people, in good situations. I didn't even know I would make it pro until probably my senior year, where one of my teammates was like, even if you don't make it in the W, like you should think about playing abroad because
Yeah,
she had graduated a few years before me and went to play. And that's where I was like, okay, let me give it a shot for a year or two. And like I said, I think at this point I feel more home in Europe. Like I enjoy the lifestyle. It goes back to growing up in a small town. I think I was ready to experience something different. I was ready to
yeah,
just be exposed to the different cultures, the different languages, the different ways people view the world.
yeah,
And I just got addicted to that, I think. And I think from a business perspective, it opens your mind because you start to see the different ways people do things, the way they think, the way they structure stuff, just differences of culture as well. So I think that was really healthy for me to open my eyes to a lot of different things around the world.
yeah,
And I think I've always just been curious. But what I will say, the overseas experience makes you very adaptable. You just
yeah.
sort of get thrown into a situation, and you're like, all right, let's go. My first year overseas, they're like, look for the tall man in sweats who was like 6'5", and I'm like, that's all the information. You're not going to give me a name. I didn't have cell phone service back then, so I was like, okay. So I think
Wow.
it changes you a little bit, and you
Yeah.
just always learn to figure it out. Like, it doesn't matter what's in front of you, you just figure it out. So, I think in the business landscape, they always talk about the crossover between athletes
Mhm.
and entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
I think it's clear. There's just a lot of mix of emotional intelligence, resilience, there's a lot of characteristics that I would say especially the overseas, lifestyle gives you a lot of practice in that space.
Awesome. Jory, talk to me about growing up and how you
Yeah,
got here.
for me, I didn't think about being an entrepreneur. It wasn't like, some of the entrepreneurs that say, I did the lemonade stand when I was 5, you know, I did
No
the
lemonade
ca
stands. Nuh-uh.
yeah, like, the truth is that I was being elite at a young age,
Yeah.
but for me at 3, I don't remember that specifically, but at a very young age, I was already saying that I was gonna play, elite level
Fantastic.
basketball when I got
Mhm.
older. And, I didn't even realize that I was saying that before the WNBA really was a thing.
Existed. Exactly. Right.
Yeah, so it's, like, even more powerful that, like, I had no blueprint yet of where you
Yeah.
gonna play, where actually are you gonna
Right.
go, Jory? There's no pro league for you. I didn't know about overseas, so, um I
Yeah.
think it's just that intuitive nature of trusting, that, your spirit man. So for
Uh-huh.
me at 3, at a young age, I knew I wanted to play basketball. It was what I loved. And of course I didn't have a endpoint. As I continued to go down my journey, I realized, oh, there's a WNBA now. Now I want to go to the WNBA. Um, and then when that didn't stick, it was like, what's next? So it never was a clear final destination, which goes totally against what business people tell you, right? Like you should
Uh,
have an end goal in mind, but it's like here are 2 players that made it further than a lot of people that probably even had an
yeah.
end goal, and we're
Sure.
here for we did it. So it's like, what's the reality of reaching a goal? Because we did it. I said what I wanted to do, but I didn't have a definite like what a success looked like.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like I
That's
wanted to do
awesome.
it. So for me, I grew up in New Orleans. Again, small area away from the city. New Orleans in itself is a small city anyway, but I grew up in Harvey, which is like 12 minutes across the bridge.
Okay.
Humble beginnings with my family, but we were a
Right.
community. And so, for me, I had a good support system that what I wanted to do, it was positive. It was never a negative connotation. It was negative, not there's no WNBA. It was just like, okay, if you want to do it, we'll support you. So I was blessed in that regard. And I think the love for basketball just kind of propelled me to wanting to improve it when I was officially done, and I think
Mhm.
that's where we've all came about was that I wasn't gonna see the things that were happening as I'm nearing the end and just walk away, because
Mhm.
I don't know, I love the game too much, and I feel like the next dreamer deserves a better path. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
the same. They're gonna face new challenges, but they should not be facing the same challenges,
Yeah.
which requires someone to come in and do something, and that was really why I came into being an entrepreneur. I was quite frankly really upset that it was happening over and over, and
Mhm.
that the people that were our main working for us agents had no sign of doing anything to change it. And that's when
Mhm.
I realized it wasn't something that they needed to change because the model worked for them.
Yeah. Awesome. This is like personal growth here is obvious, and your dedication is also obvious to me. But what I can't imagine doing, having been an entrepreneur myself 6 times now over, is how you 2 can do this and play ball at the same time and have some, let's call it life, family, friends, etcetera. How do you guys manage and juggle all these things at once? I mean, what and also what keeps you grounded? Like, what are some personal habits, or how do you just think about doing all this sort of simultaneously? Who wants to jump in?
I mean, for me, I think you never find a balance. I feel like,
Okay.
it's like 5, 6 years now that we're in this flow, and it's like I still go through my little, ups and downs of feeling,
Yeah.
balanced in managing the relationships, the
Yeah.
family, friends, just moving around, trying to balance the time. But I think nobody probably has that figured out. More important, I mean, I remember in the beginning days, I was like, had a little notepad by the bed, and I was waking up in the middle of the night to write stuff down. And I think 99% of the time, I would go check Jory's files, and I'm like, oh, the girl's got that too. and but besides that, I think I've tried to learn to give a cutoff and have like focused sections of time where I'm doing certain
Mm,
things. Um, I would say we've tried to strategically use playing, because we're
mhm.
close to our users. We're constantly feeling those pain
Yeah.
points. We've seen a lot of founders that have retired that not necessarily give up on building for the next generation, but the reality of life hits, and they have families, they have other responsibilities. So I think from that standpoint, Jory and I realize, we don't have families. We have more flexibility in how we
Yeah.
use our time. Um, in that regard. But yeah, I think we also try to remind each other, hey, like log off for the day, go get
Mhm.
your feet in the sand or in the grass, take a tea and take care of yourself. So we try to support each other that way. But I think overall you just have to be as self-aware as possible to know
Mm.
where is your mood at, where's your mental health at, where can you give up a little bit today so that the next
Yeah.
week you're in a better place. Um, and that's just, nobody can tell you how to do that. You have to understand yourself. You have to know
Yeah.
what motivates you. You have to know what your social gauge is. And I'll give a shout out to Jory because she knows I don't like
Mm.
social engagement as much as she does. So for a lot of things, she takes the front end of hopping on podcasts or doing the pitches and doing sort of the social side. So appreciate her for that, to let me be a little bit more behind the scenes and do my thing to save my own energy. So
Well, Julie, I'm glad you're here then. Jory, why don't you what keeps you, moving forward and day to day,
Yeah,
and how do you
I
balance
just
this
wanna say
stuff?
you're lucky, you're lucky. You got Julie on your
I
podcast, like,
know.
that's
I
like
feel really
gold.
good about that. There's a
Like, you
connection
are
here, Julie.
special right there.
I'm guessing that. I'm figuring that out. I feel
Yeah.
good.
I think, Julie said a lot of things. For me, it's just been a constant, Like you say, you knowing yourself, being as self-aware as possible, doing
Yeah,
the work, learning to set a routine to meditate, setting some boundaries the best we can, because of course scheduling calls is tough, but I've
yeah,
just been intentionally trying to like wake up and give myself at least 10 minutes to just not touch my phone and try to make sure my mind is clear,
yeah,
that I don't start my day immediately racing and just trying to, set some boundaries. I think that's been the most recent thing for me. As far as balancing family, I know during the time I don't have kids, obviously, and I'm
yeah,
not dating anyone right now, but I know when you are in relationships, if you're with for me, there was some times where I was with individuals that didn't understand what it was to try and
yeah.
even launch a company, yet alone most of them were
Right.
athletes, so yet
Exactly.
alone, they don't even know how to have a job yet 'cause
Yeah,
most of us were just playing sports, so now you have a partner who has never had a job and probably never tried to do a
yeah,
company, which causes issues because they don't understand yet
right.
what it is to actually have to work, and
Yeah,
so I know that was something that when you're dating, it requires more commitment and I don't know, it's hard, I have no idea. I think for me, I look forward to having a relationship, but also I know right now it could be something that could cause for me, I have to be locked in. There's a lot
yeah,
that I have to do on a daily and then also finding time for myself. Um, I don't have any advices on that one. That will have to be someone who's actually done it successfully.
alright,
So
I'll let you
relationships and
know.
family is hard to balance because it's something that when we're at the startup phase, not as much resources, um, you kinda feel selfish because you don't have the time for other things. And then I think the mental health piece is just for me, it's been balancing all the stigmas and trying to ignore
Mm,
it, but keeping a reality
mhm,
like, okay, I am a
yeah,
woman, I am a black woman, I get it,
yeah,
like we're first time founders, but it's kind of like, what does that do for me? Like
yeah,
we know what it is, but who cares? I
right,
was also a kid from New Orleans that didn't have a network of people going into
right,
sport and I made it. So I think it's a balancing of reality, but also maintaining the core goal and going after it. Um, and that comes with that quiet time, I think, because society gets really loud. And it's like sometimes you gotta ignore it, keep your head down, and keep doing what you have to do.
yeah, awesome. We're gonna start to wrap up here, but I'm always curious, what is that one thing that you're super proud of that no one knows?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. That is a good question. Probably
Can
should
we
work.
can we flip it to you? What is
To
yours?
me?
Yeah.
What am I really I'm pretty proud of the fact that at my age, I'm still jumping into all kinds of new businesses and new ideas, and I'm just like, "Hey, I'm just getting started. This is just another chapter." So I'm kind of proud of that. And then I'm learning how to DJ right now. So, again, I'm going to be the world's oldest female DJ in the on the planet. So it's really a lot of fun to still be relevant and and I'm proud of that. So I think that's something that I hold true. Ladies, I've got to tell you that I'm supremely impressed. I've known you both at least tangentially for a year plus now, and your mission and your vision and where you're taking this, it's my job to get this message out and help you get this message out because it's a worthwhile one. I will say, authentically speaking, I really believe in you guys, and I want you to continue to change the world in a really positive way. So keep doing it. And I will put in the show notes how to reach out to Julie and Jory if you want to invest or if you want to take advantage of the platform if you're a player. But they're doing good work in this world. So thank you, ladies, both. Let's stay in touch.
Thank you. Really
All right.
appreciate it anytime.
Yeah, thank you.